Hello, and welcome to the Plenty of Positivity podcast. I am your host, Courtney Beck, and today we have a very special guest, Dr. Rita Renee. Dr. Renee is a TEDx speaker, author, international empowerment strategist, and a mentor who leads with a life of service. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome Dr. Rita Renee.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I feel like we're sisters. We're already kindred. So
Dr. Renee, I am thrilled to have you on the podcast. I first want to give you a big congratulations on your recent TEDx talk.
thank you so much.
It is so exciting. We are certainly going to get into it, but I want to jump right into this podcast to learn about your story and to share your story with all of our listeners. So if you could please begin with an introduction and a background of yourself.
Well, yes, you already mentioned about a speaker, but more importantly, I think I'm happy about that. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm remarried, and I thank God that He sent me this amazing man that found me in Georgia. So, been married for, I'm still a newlywed, 6 years. So still a newlywed. I'm a nurse by trade. I still work in a corporate America and helping others. And my life is just full of service. I serve on multiple women business owner boards and serving women, making sure they get the resources and the spotlight they need to compel them, catapult their business so that they could be visible.
Absolutely. And you know what, Dr. Renee, I love starting from the very beginning. And you have such an incredible background. You were the first to graduate college in your family, and you have received multiple degrees. So I want to start there first because that really does lay the foundation. What was that drive? What was that inspiration to achieve all of those degrees?
Well, as you said, start from the beginning. As a child, I saw how hard my mother worked. She was actually the first to graduate from high school, and I saw how hard that my grandparents worked, and they always wanted the best for me. So education was a priority in our family. My father was in the Air Force, and one of the things that I felt that the education would do would help me help others. It wasn't more about me being helped or me having better things. I have always thought about other people in my community and my surroundings. So that kind of catapulted me, that kind of pushed me, encouraged me. It gave me the energy to feel like that nothing that you put your mind to, that you can actually achieve those things. So your surroundings, your upbringings, your social economics, how much money you have in the bank, your type, nothing can stop you from being who you want to be except for you and your mindset. And so that's what kept pushing me along. I had encouragement from my families. And once I seen, my mom like be the first to graduate from high school, I'm like, what if I'm the first to graduate from college?
That's so exciting. And, to your point, our parents can play such a profound impact on us. And exactly what you said, it's about like raising the bar that if mom was able and capable of achieving this, what else could I do? And I just think that's beautiful that you give so much credit to your family. And as you would progress, Dr. Renee, this is unbelievable, truly incredible. You are an 8-time published author and a 4-time co-author. And so I would love for you just to speak about these books. Like, what is maybe the main theme? They may be even different, but if you could just speak upon the process, the journey of writing these books.
Thank you for that question. And a lot of people don't ask me that question. They just want to name the books. And there is a process, and it was a journey. I was going through a very bad divorce during the time. And also, I had some childhood abuse that happened to me from my uncle from the age of 5 to 10. That writing that book, the first book, Stay in the Ring, Knocked Down but Not Knocked Out, that was a healing process for me. I was going through life with a smile, but inside I had a frown, I had scars, I had pain that I had not dealt with. And it was hard for me to go into certain circles because I didn't want to face the reality of that pain. So writing that book was the first sign for me to breathe, the first sign for me to exhale, the first sign for me to move forward from my past and go towards my purpose. And after that, I began to do prayer journals. And those prayer journals will help people on specific topics. Once I got brave enough to tell my story, I said, if anybody gonna tell my story, it's gonna be me. And they're gonna miss out things. So I'm gonna put everything in it. But now here's the prayer journal, help me through the prayer process of getting through each of those items that I went through, those challenges, those tragedies that I went through. And I found doing that not only helped me, but it helped other people.
I think that's what's so beautiful is that, when you take it upon yourself, and it really is like you said, to relive certain childhood traumas, to be able to move forward and to heal. I think that is really like the first step forward to acknowledging everything that you have gone through. But then, as you mentioned, our stories could truly be inspirational to others. You never know when you are providing somebody that inspiration from the challenges that you have overcome in your life that may allow somebody to reflect on their life and say, wow, if
Absolutely.
she or he could do that, just think if I could just get over this small, little speed bump in life and what I could achieve. And so I love that you mentioned that. And I think that's so powerful, what you were speaking about, just, looking at your story, but then being able to share that. That takes a lot of courage, not to mention, of course, writing a book about your life. So that's amazing.
We need that. We have to be so many people look at the outside and they see the finished product, right? They see the smile, they see the hair, the makeup. No, we look gorgeous on the screen right now. But there's a process and there's a lot of things that happen in the background. And I'm just grateful that I have been given grace to share that because I don't want people to feel like it's not obtainable, that your joy is not obtainable, that your happiness and your future is not obtainable because of your past. And somebody has to step up and say, hey, this happened to me. You can do this. And guess what? You don't have to walk this journey alone.
I think that that's absolutely beautiful. And what you speak about with like the outside portrayal, if you will, like what people actually see, the first impression, there's so much more. And I think it's so important today that we take the time to get to know one another, to hear our story. That's where the inspiration is. That's what I talk about just on the podcast with positivity. It's not that everything's perfect and it's all great, but it's the fact of look at the journey in between before you get to the camera, right? There's a journey. So I love how you mentioned that.
You brought up something that I talked about before at a meeting, and I said, the GPS never shows you each pothole or detour on your journey, right, to whatever your destination is. And a lot of us, we look at each other and we may feel like, hey, I'm going to start once I get it all together. And when I'm in rooms with other women, I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I don't want anything from you. I generally, and it's maybe because I didn't have a lot of friends, that plays a lot of it, but I generally want to know that person. What are they feeling? What are they going through? And I'm the one that usually I'm like the connector. Oh, you should partner with this person. I love collaboration. Getting to know other people, building those relationships, that will go longer than a sale. You can make that one sale and you never make another sale, but those relationships compound on each other and it can take you so much further than you can ever imagine it.
I love that you mentioned that because I learned about the value of building relationships during my career in sales. And above everything, just like you said, not selling the product, not understanding the product, the benefits and everything. But what I really learned about sales that I was able to transfer into just life in general was the importance of the genuine connection that you make with another human being. Like I said, taking the time to listen to their story, because really I always reflect upon that, like how quick our lives are just going. But when we really do, when we take the time to appreciate one another, we could have such a different perspective on life and truly appreciate it that much more. And that kind of leads me to my next question, is that you kind of mentioned it in the last part, but you have such a passion to help other women, to help them develop a certain level of confidence, whether it's in their writing, whether it's in their speaking. And so I'm curious, what made you go in that particular direction?
I thought about myself. I see myself in a lot of women who felt like their voice wasn't important or what they said wasn't important, or they stayed muted because of their shame and their past. And when I'm around women like that, I want to let them know that, use some of my encouragement, use some of my positivity. If you don't have it for yourself right now, just let me glean some from me just to make that first step. And I think that's where a lot of people, they kinda get stuck, is because they're not able to make that first step. So when I see women like that, I'm seeing myself, I don't wanna be stuck. She's a part of me. We're a part of this sisterhood, and there's no sister left behind, right? If you're willing to go on that journey, you may not can make that first step, but let me at least carry you a little bit, and then you start building that courage because everyone needs a certain level of that hand-holding, that coaching, that mentorship, and you have to meet people where they are, especially when they haven't dealt with a trauma. And I will say this as a caveat, I don't push anyone to move forward until they deal with that trauma, that hurt, and that pain, because that'll be a reflection in whenever they're speaking, when they're writing, whatever they're doing, and they may not want to carry it may be too negative, right? Some things you want to be transparent about, but you don't want to have that negative output, right? You want people to feel better once they come into contact in the room with you. And so that's why I just, that's my passion. If I can just do that 24 hours a day, I think that would be a blessing for me.
Dr. Renee, that is absolutely beautiful. And it really does. It speaks to your character. We need more Dr. Renees in this world because it's so true that, for you to be able to stop and to reflect as to how you could help other women to build up that confidence that you see in them. You see their potential, and they may just need one person to tell them one sentence that's encouraging, that's a positive. Maybe they've heard negativity that day. But all it takes in life is really just one person reaching out to help another. It could be a sentence, it could be taking the time. And I just want to, I want to commend you on what you do for other women, because it really is, it's absolutely beautiful to see other people like helping. When you see somebody who has that potential, you see it in them, but to pull it out, I think that's absolutely beautiful. And that leads me to the next question. And that next question certainly has to do with that confidence that has built up over the years. You had a recent first TEDx talk. Congratulations,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Renee.
Thank you.
I want to hear all about the journey leading up to it, why the topic. I want to hear all about it.
Well, and I'm a transparent person. There's so much controversy around DEI and belonging and boxes. And I just felt, you know, deep in my heart that as a Black woman, that I had a voice and I had my own perspective. And I look at life not through the lens of color, but through the lens of character. And that's where I was passionate about making sure that point was vocal and that I share my story and my perspective. And of course, you get some pushback, but that's the challenge of telling people the truth and telling your side. One thing about your story is your story. Nobody can change your story. And so by me doing that, there was so much positivity and so much support and so much visibility for that. And I think if you look at the comments on the YouTube channel, a lot of perspectives were changed. I had people walking up to me, even a person that was doing her doctoral thesis and said, I is actually writing about the DEI and you helped me see a different perspective. I mean, if I have changed one person's heart or just get them to see something in a different perspective, then my work was done. And I'm grateful for that.
I mean, first off, like I said, I mean, a huge congratulations. That's the ultimate in public speaking is the TEDx talk. And so, as we move forward, as you mentioned, you speak about being able to embrace your own story. And as you mentioned, nobody else could say, hey, that's not the way it went. That's, your story. And I think that's beautiful to share that story, to share your experience, and to be able to speak your truth.
Mhm.
I think that's so important today. And that kind of leads me into just the topic of leadership and how being a leader, you're not always your opinions, your thoughts, they may not always be embraced by all. But I think that's what's so important about leadership is that you stand for something. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. Right before we got on this conversation, on this talk, Dr. Renee, you were telling me you have hit over 120,000 views. That's here right now. I mean, it's only going up from there. So I'm so proud of you. I really do. I think this is a huge, huge accomplishment in life for anybody. And so I commend you on that.
I'm excited. I just want to encourage people, and I want them to just be open-minded. We have so much to gain when we're listening to other people and their perspectives, and we can only rise together when we do that.
Absolutely. And I want to take kind of a deep like dive into the TEDx. And, I could remember when I was watching it, it was such a moving speech that you had. It was powerful. And you had this one moment where really the impact was so profound. You speak about that you decided not to be a victim, but that you wanted to aim to be that overcomer just in life.
Yeah.
So what kind of gave you that perspective and what maybe inspired you to go in that direction?
Well, with the culture today, we have um, a lot of things in the communities and in our social media cross newsfeed that makes people want to become a victim. It makes it prosperous for them to become a victim. And I was never raised that. My grandparents, they had only had a fourth and a sixth grade education, and they worked on the farm. And actually, the farmer gave them their first house. I mean, I remember growing up in the house. And so we never saw ourselves as victim. Um, we made everything the best that we could out of anything that we had. And it never stopped my family. I never saw anything that stopped them from being who they were, being landowners, homeowners, being also my mother, even with the high school education, she was a med tech. I mean, she never let that hinder her. And so I wanted to be that same example for my children. I wanted the people to see in the audience and whoever heard over the airways, I don't care what your background is. We have so many people that are not US citizens that come here with a dollar
Mhm.
and are millionaires. There's no excuse for us. We're in the greatest country ever, and I wanted to make sure that I sounded out loud. And we're not going to take any excuses. If you need help, that's when we reach out to each other and say, "Hey, I need help." And a lot of us have a hard time asking for help. So I decided I'm not a victim. I'm victorious, and I'm not going to allow anybody to put me in a victim's box.
I love everything about this. I mean, really, when I was watching it, it gave me chills because it inspires people to overcome any challenge. It's not even necessarily in one's career, but just in life
Exactly. For
to
life.
rise above, right?
Yes.
And I just thought I really did. That was such a powerful message. And in it, you had this one statement, and I took notes on this, Dr. Renee, because this was so profound. Our trauma
Mm.
is a testimony that we made it. Can
Yes.
you speak
It
about
is not a credential that gives you an opportunity, to be at the seat. We use that to share with people hey, to encourage not only ourselves, but, others. But, sometimes people will use trauma as a credential for them to have a seat at the table, but that's not necessarily true because your trauma may not be beneficial to the company or the organization, whatever, but it is absolutely a testimony to share that you can be a be victorious in any situation that you find yourself in.
I think that's absolutely beautiful. And like I said, that's not even just in one's career, but
Mhm.
that's in life. That's such a
Absolutely.
that message could resonate to anybody out there, that you really are like, you carve out your own destiny, like go for things that, even if, and I speak about this a lot, but if you make a mistake, rise back up, learn from it. It's a chance to grow in life. And that's really, like, in my opinion, that's why we're here to grow. We're here to help each other along the way. You have certainly said that in our conversation
Yes.
at the beginning. And I think it's such a beautiful message, because really, when I heard that quote, I was like, I have got to ask her about this. It's just, you had these one-liners that made me stop and reflect, and even look at my life and say, like, how do you rise up in those situations when sometimes inevitably our first thing is, you're like, man, that's not fair. Why did that person,
Right.
treat me like that? But you could rise up even stronger and realize that you have like infinite capabilities to overcome anything in life.
Well, you just said it. We compare ourselves to other people, and social media has been that crutch that we've used to compare ourselves. The AI, you can forget it now. We don't even know if it's real or not. So don't compare yourself to other people's. But yes, absolutely. You don't have to wear your trauma as a badge, but just have that, know that you can overcome, and that's the witness to you overcoming any situation, whether it's life, career, relationships.
From the very beginning, when I was introducing you, as I had mentioned, you live your life in service to others. We spoke about women, that you help them with their confidence, how they speak, how they come across. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. And when you reflect, as you go through life and you're helping, whether it's women or just people in general, how has that maybe had an impact on your own life, realizing the power of giving, not necessarily always receiving?
Right. Well, one of the things is when you're a mentor and when you're helping someone, whether through their journey, you may not always see the fruits of your labor. I had to realize that people move, people, they go on about their journey. And so I just know that I planted a seed, and I know that seed is a good seed, and I'm sure it's gonna bloom, but it may not bloom where I can see it. But as long as someone else can see it, as long as someone else can benefit from those petals, from that sunshine, whatever it is, then I'm grateful for that. And I'm just doing my small part. I just feel like that's what my life is about. I feel like I get more energized when I'm doing that. And if I'm not doing that, and if I don't see it, I don't mind saying, "Hey, I may not be a compatible fit to be your mentor." We have to
Mhm.
also make sure that we swallow our pride, right? And we also acknowledge that this person has great potential, but I may not have the skill set and I may not be a good fit, but I can connect them with someone else. That's a challenge that a lot of people have when they focus on the money aspect of it. And since I don't focus on the money aspect, it doesn't, I'm more concerned about that person getting to that next level.
And you're right. It does. It takes a lot of, you're right. It kind of like just swallowing your pride to say, maybe I'm not a good fit for helping this individual get to that next level, but then being able to reflect on your own strengths and
Mhm.
weaknesses. And I love how you were mentioning, at the beginning right there, it was this idea of, where you offer those like seeds to plant. Those individuals may end up, getting up to move, literally locations. Maybe they don't come back to check in and,
Right?
actually speak about their progress, but that you're able to let that go and that you did everything you could. And I think that's such an important message in life, is that if you could look in the mirror and you could say, I did my very best at the end of the day, you can't ask for anything else, right?
Absolutely, I agree. If they don't blossom in your garden, as long as they're blossoming, that's the end goal.
Absolutely. I mean, that you're right. That's what life is about. It's about helping others achieve their fullest potential in life and to gain that level of confidence. And it leads me to my next question, just talking about serving others, but sometimes in the environment when we look at where we're at, you were even speaking about it in your TEDx and we were in that conversation, but the sense of like entitlement or like what's in it for me.
Mm.
How do you stand out in such a different way where you look past that and you're like, you know what? It's not about me. I really do genuinely want to help others. Like, what gives you that motivation to go in that direction and not look at what's in it for me?
Yes, it has to do a lot with, character, and I think that there are some people that have a character flaw. If they're not gonna get the recognition, if they're not gonna get, um, named and shout out and spotlight, they won't help other people. If they feel like they're gonna do better than them, they will not help other people. If you can ask anyone, I am a resource pool. If I have the information, I am going to share it. It doesn't matter. And if you do better than me, then so what? You do better than me. That's your journey. It's already predestined for you to do. I'm just part of the journey along the way. I'm the rest stop along the way.
Love it.
And so a lot of people have to get their ego out of it. And it's all about this heart. It's all about your character. And you really have to deal with that, and I think that's what makes me different, because at the end of the day, if I'm not trying to get anything out of it, and I just really honestly, truly want people to succeed, and I don't mind being in the background. You don't have to call my name. It's okay. I work with, um, multiple nurses in different projects, and if they send me something, I'm like, "That's a great idea." I make sure they get the recognition for this idea.
Well, and Dr. Renee, I mean, let's look at your life. I mean, the more that you have poured out to help other people, look at the accolades that I read at the very beginning. I mean, that's powerful. TEDx speaker, 8-time author. And I say this because I truly believe in life that when we help others, it could sometimes come back like tenfold. And you're right. When you speak about how some people just feel like there's not enough like success to go around, I completely look in the opposite direction and I look at how much abundance there's enough room for everybody to achieve their fullest potential, to achieve all of the success that they've ever imagined. And that's literally through like lived experience I could speak from. And like I said, your story, it's a testimony of just that. You speak about how beautiful your family was in impacting you and influencing you, and let alone look what you have gone on to do.
Mm.
Terminal degrees. I mean, like you said, you're in nursing, which leads me to my next question. But what have you learned specifically within your career, like within nursing? What is something that maybe stands out?
One of the things that stands out is, when I started in nursing, it was truly about the compassion to help people, and I'm grateful that I've been at, my company for almost 21 and a half years, and a lot of people who are on my team have been with me for at least 10 years, and what I have noticed is that they just needed an opportunity. They may not have had all of the criteria, all the credentials, all of the training, but I prepared and gave them an opportunity to grow, gave them responsibility. If they made a mistake, how do we learn from our mistake? Next time, do this. Let them take risks. As long as they're not hurting anybody, let them take the risk, because they have to feel confident in themselves. And a lot of people, when you're in leadership, you can cause people to be dependent on you, even in decision making. And you don't want that. A real leader will help build other leaders and help build their decision process. So I've learned that in my course of being a leadership in the clinical field. And that's what created me as I grew up in hard knocks nursing. They eat their young. I survived that. And if I can survive that, anybody can survive.
I just like, I love that. I love everything that you mentioned there. And something that really stands out that I would love to like just ask you, as far as not even within nursing, but just in the workforce in general. I mean, I hear a lot about burnout.
Mhm.
Burnout is certainly a topic of discussion. And as you mentioned, you have been in this career for over 20 years. You have people on your team holding upwards to 10 years. Like, what is the secret? What is the ability for a leader to not have the people on the team to feel burned out and to look at even other going into other careers? Like, how what's your secret sauce as a leader?
I have personal relationships with everybody on my team. I have walked through in vitro fertilization, people trying to get pregnant, they finally have their babies, marriages, divorce, this death in their families. So I have shown genuine concern and built that rapport. And I won't say loyalty because that sounds so, but we have built really like family relationships with one another. And I've been there with them. And I've seen them grow and help them grow through their process in their careers as well. And some of them have been gone on to be managers, directors, nurse practitioners. I mean, they've done a gamut of things, and I've just been there to support them. I've never tried to hold them hostage in the position. And so they felt free to talk to me about and confidentiality. No one can ever say that they heard that repeated anything. People need to trust you. And if they don't trust you, they won't work for you or they won't participate in anything that you have going on.
Absolutely. And I love how you bring up two like phrases, if you will, but it really reminded me of how important like human connection is today.
Mhm.
And that's even, you're right, like even in the workforce, but taking time to really appreciate others. And if in fact they're human beings too, if in fact they're going through a difficult time in life, of just taking the time to speak with them. Because sometimes, as we know, it's not always about delivering advice, but it's just being present and listening, and that demonstrates that you care, that you have taken the effort to literally care about the situation that they're going through. And I feel like when people feel valued, especially in a career, they're more willing to even go to other extents that you never thought that they
True,
would go, or that you even asked them to go,
true.
because they'll do that for the leader that values them. So
Absolutely.
I love that. And I love like you speak about trust, how important trust is today. So
Mhm.
those two like concepts, if you will, like I really drew from that. And I think the power of connection, I talk about connection all the time here. It's like communication, connection, and community. But this whole conversation, I look at the main theme as is connection, of building genuine relationships. And I learned about like genuine relationships at such a young age, because I really did. I was always told to like network, network, network. And not only did I not do that, but I didn't even take the time to build the genuine connections. And so I learned about that early on, and how important it is to take the time and effort. And I just love how you do that as a leader. And I'd love to like maybe kind of take just more of a deep dive into leadership. But how is your leadership philosophy? How has it maybe developed throughout the years?
I'll say trial and error because I starting off as a leader, I didn't know what I was doing, but I had a great mentor. I
Hmm.
had a great mentor that pushed me beyond where I thought I could go. I remember being hired to start up the department, and it was just myself, the VP, and then we had two non clinical and eight nurses. And now that department is so huge, it has 160 some nurses on the team. I'm not the only manager, there's other managers and there's another director, but I was the original core group that built the whole process. And um, I think because she allowed and she saw that in me and she didn't let me quit, because I wanted to quit a couple of times. I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to quit. But she was like, no, Rita, this is good for you. You can do this. And it pushed me even beyond my skills as a nurse because I wound up being the operations manager, developing the website and all this other stuff. And I do some of that now and I love doing that. And I think that's what a good leader should do. We should identify those skills, but also don't be afraid to challenge the people that you mentor to go beyond that, to get beyond their comfort zone. And that's very important. And people want to be challenged, but they want to make sure that if they're challenged, that you're going to be with them. Don't just leave them out there alone on the island, right?
No, it's so true. And I love how you speak about the importance of mentorship,
Mhm.
and that no matter what level or what title that we possess, that anytime along the way, that it's always good to have a mentor, somebody who has been there, who has done it. Because like you said, I mean, just to have somebody along the journey that you know is not going to, you're right, like just drop off.
Mhm.
I think that's so important, mentorship along the way. And it brings me to my next question. And my next question is, you've already accomplished the TEDx. I mean, that's the ultimate. You have achieved so much success in becoming an author, 8-time author, 4-time co-author. You have a very successful career. I mean, what could possibly be next for Dr. Rita Renee?
Well, I wanna retire. So hopefully, once my husband finishes school, he finishes school the end of next year, and I'll retire. But, I do have some other book projects. I'm gonna actually be focusing on children's books next year. And, yeah, so that's gonna be my target, and I wanna dabble a little bit in politics, but I don't know how far I wanna go yet.
That is fantastic. And I love how you mention like family within that too.
Mhm.
And going through your career, going through the highs and the lows of life, like, could you maybe speak just a little bit more to how important family and even friends are
Yes.
during that journey?
Yes, I think this is the one thing that a lot of women and I don't really like boss chick. I don't because I feel like a lot of women feel like family is secondary to their careers. And at the end of the day, when you come home from work, whether you leave in a project, your family is going to be always be there for you. And sometimes we can take advantage of that as we go on our pursuits and our purpose and our journey and things like that. So my family is very important. I have teenage boys at home. I have grown children and it's important for us to keep that connection. It's important for me and for my husband to let them know that we love them. We're here to support them and I should not be spending more time on the outside pushing my career than I spend on the inside because you can never get time back. There are some things, and as I was getting, growing up and as I had my daughters and both of them are older, there are some things I wish I did not do and spent so much time on. And I talked about that, at one of my Toastmaster meetings. I was like, "If I can change back time, I would spend more time with them because you can never get that back."
I agree with you 100%. And actually, I read an article recently of a lot of women who have climbed that ladder, who have achieved all like the top titles and stuff.
Mhm.
How they're reflecting and they're saying, "Wait, like I do want a family. Like, I do want to spend time." And they're realizing it. And some of which you're right. I mean, it could be too late. And so I think that's such an important message that you bring is having that sense of harmony with both. Because you're right, your family will always be there. And career, not necessarily all the time. I mean, I know when I was in sales, it was so interesting to me. I was young. My gosh, I think I was like 25. I was just like cruising. I was so excited. I was just getting in like the groove of everything. And then boom, 70 of us contract sales force overnight cut. And I was like, what? What happened? But my point is exactly the point of what you're speaking about is that your family will always be there for you. And finding that harmony is so essential, especially for women, as you mentioned.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. And so, Dr. Rita Renee, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on this podcast to
Right.
share all of your wisdom, your knowledge, and your life experience. I would love for you just to share a positive message or a positive quote with our community.
Well, I would say, I think one of my positive quotes would be is don't take for granted what you have today. Don't take for granted what you have today, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, your business, and be that positive light, not just for others, but for yourself. We always omit ourselves. Be that positive light for yourself.
I absolutely love that. I do. I feel gratitude is so incredibly important in our life because you're right. I mean, sometimes you could get in that routine, you take things for granted, and then all of a sudden, when it's gone, you're like, hold on, wait. It's about gratitude and it's about appreciating life. I talk about positivity a lot, just as you mentioned there about how it really is. It's a choice. It's a choice when you wake up in the morning that, yes, maybe something happened right away and it wasn't so great to start off your day, but you have a choice to
Absolutely.
turn it around, to pull in that positive mindset and to pull in that positive attitude because you really do. It's such a ripple effect when you're around people, especially like you have mentioned. I mean, you lead teams as a leader. It really does. It could affect those around you. And so I think that's such a beautiful message to end this podcast episode on. Dr. Rita Renee, like I said, it has been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on this podcast.
Thank you so much.